I'm a stand-up comedian if you didn't know, and I do live shows. So you should come to those. All of them are listed at jaronmyers.com/shows. I would really love to see you at some of those. It's a really fun opportunity to hang out, and plenty of TILLN listeners come to my shows, so you can meet other people who listen to this show and bond over that. And just trying to use the word show 2 more times in this. So jaronmyers.com/shows.
Hey, man.
Happy to be here. What's going on?
I hate that that's your new thing now.
You can do hey, man.
Yeah, but I just don't want you to be happy to be here.
Okay.
Hey, man, have you ever heard of Zheng He?
Pretty sure it's pronounced Shanghai.
Oh, sorry. No, it's Mahi.
Okay.
Sanbao.
Sure.
Zheng He, I'll take you to the start of the story. So Zheng He, he was born in 1371. Oh no! Don't look at me like this.
Golly, dude. This is gonna be one of those episodes, just like the priest we talked about, Formosus or whatever.
No,
where you try to say all these names and try to keep all the stories straight, but nothing's gonna make sense at the end, and it's gonna be an hour long, and at the end of it, we're both gonna be like, I guess fiddle, like we'll just be like, all right, and then I'll get blamed for the show falling off.
No one's blaming you. And you're like, whoever those guys are, they're in charge now. They're the boss now. But
that's how people feel when I walk into the local Mexican restaurant. I walk in, is the theme song over?
Yeah, so Zheng He, he was...
13 what?
He was born in 1371.
Okay.
In 1380.
It is truly crazy to think about how many people just existed.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
Like if you think about how much time...
Yeah. There's been a lot of that.
If you think how long ago the founding fathers were, 200 years ago, 250 years ago now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Not even that, 250, right?
Yeah, no.
I think next year will be 250.
Yeah, close to it, yeah.
Close to it. That's not how numbers work, dude. Next year will be 250.
I think you're right. Next year will be 250.
So this is...
Well, this is like 3 Americas.
That's what I'm saying.
This is like 3 Americas ago. Honestly, hilarious way to measure time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 3 Americas ago.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Forget the decimal system.
3 Americas
This is
ago.
how we use feet, miles, and Americas.
So this guy was born 1371. And he lived in he was a part of the Northern Yuan dynasty.
Okay.
So like what we would know of as like Northern China today.
Okay.
But this was a Mongol area. He was part of the Mongol Empire.
Okay.
And his dad was like a part of the army. So in 1381, a Ming dynasty army invaded his hometown.
Okay.
And part of that, they were like they were on a conquest. They were conquering land from the Mongols. His dad was his name was Mahaji. He was a soldier, and also he was like a high-ranking official in the town that they lived in.
Sure.
And so he died fighting off the Ming armies. And as a 10-year-old, 1381, he's 10 years old. The Ming soldiers approached this 10-year-old child. And they say, hey, where's the emperor? And he tells them, I think he dove in the pond over there. And they were like, and they said, oh, that's clever. And so they went and they checked the pond and there was nobody in the pond. And so then they said, you're coming with us, you liar. And
Okay.
So they kidnapped this kid. Well, I mean, is it kidnapping if it's war?
They POW'd this child?
They POW'd this kid, yeah. So they took him and they took him back to the Ming. The Ming dynasty of this era was interesting. Let me see if I can pull up a chart.
Hey, man.
What?
Have you ever heard of... I just decided I wasn't interested in your topic. I'll do mine.
Okay.
Have you ever heard... I'm joking.
They took him back to... he specifically went back to Beijing, which at the time was called Beiping. They hadn't renamed it yet. And that was that was presided over by a prince of the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty had 5 princes. The prince in Beiping would one day be called Yongle at a certain point. I think right now at this point in time, he was called Zhu Dai. And so he was taken in there. And the Ming Dynasty is interesting because the emperor of the Ming Dynasty had very strong convictions. He was like a big Confucian. But his sons all were like, they had different opinions. And they were like, oh, Dad, that's so old school. That's so not trendy. And so they had their own new opinions that they were trying to lead their districts with. And so this specific guy, his trendy new thing that he was trying to lead his district with was eunuchs. And so he strongly believed that eunuchs were the only trustworthy people in a society. And he said that because they were not going to have a lineage, and so they had no thirst for like power or legacy because they were just going to die one day, and that was going to be the end of their line. And then they also couldn't like have like a family of any kind, and so they would have no I don't know the right term for this, but like no obligations holding them back from doing what the empire needed them to do.
Okay.
And he also believed that it was like a strong show of like dedication to the empire, willing to be
a eunuch.
Eunuchicized. Is that how you say it? Is that how you say that?
Okay.
And so, but here's the deal. It was an empire. And I'm going to be honest, most of the people probably didn't choose to be eunuchs.
Right.
But this boy who was kidnapped, Zheng He, he was eunuchicized and taken in.
I don't think that's a word.
I think it is. You know what it means. You understand it. It's a word. If I say it, if I make the sounds of my mouth and you get it, it's a word.
Okay.
He gets taken in and he becomes like a servant. Don't worry about that. He becomes a servant. Okay. He becomes a servant of the emperor. And so, or I guess of the prince of this district. And so in his service, it's very interesting. He gets taken in at such a young age. It's a young age, but at the same time, it's old enough where he really understands what's going on. Like he's not young enough to where they can kind of what is it? What Moses him?
Yeah.
But it's
they can just pretend that you've always been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he knows that he's a child from somewhere else.
Yeah. He knows the background. He knows what happened. He knows how they got him.
Yeah.
There's no hiding this story from
all this because I lied about the pond.
I think they would have taken him anyways. Yeah. That's a detail that's in the story that I'm like, I'm not sure if that mattered to what happened here. Sure. But they tell it. And so he becomes he does a couple years in military service as a young boy, because they did that back then, and and then as he grows older, he starts to build this like service record, and so he gets more and more power, and that was what was really interesting in this era. The eunuchs were the ones who could gain power. You could only progress so far as a non-eunuch, but if you were a eunuch, they trusted you more. I guess in this district for this specific prince, because he didn't trust anyone who wasn't. And so he started getting a lot more opportunity that a lot of other people were not granted the same opportunity to. And as he ages, as the story goes, allegedly, scientists have tried to explain how this happened, like looking back on the story. And what they say is because he was eunuchicized at the age he was, when he approached adolescence, there wasn't enough testosterone in the system. So they said that his bones never fused and grew the right way. And so they instead, and I don't understand this explanation of events, but because of that, he grew to be very long, is what they say. And so he's supposedly like 7 feet tall. And so he became because he had low T, I think.
Okay.
I don't understand how that explanation makes sense.
Sure.
But it's the explanation that we're given. And so he grows to be like 7 feet tall. And so he becomes this defender of the prince, this 7 foot defender of the prince. Yeah. And in his role, him and the prince, they start to, I guess, conspire together.
Yeah.
And there comes a point in, let me see the date on this, in 1402, the prince's father dies, and there's now a power vacuum. The 5 sons want to become the emperor.
Yeah.
Well, I should say 3. 2 of them are dead now. The 3 sons want to become the prince. There's only one ahead of the prince in this district that really has an opportunity at it. Long story short, they go to war. Zheng He leads this conquest, wins the war, and that puts
that
prince, which it takes on the name Yongle, and he becomes the Yongle emperor, becomes the emperor of the whole Ming dynasty.
Okay.
And so the emperor comes to Zhang He and says, "Hey, I want to call you Sun Bao."
And he's like the right-hand man?
He becomes his right hand man.
Okay.
He says because of your loyal work, I want to rename. I want to give you a new name. You're Sun Bao.
You're now the Rock.
He gives him. He calls him
Peter. Which every time I say the name Peter, I only think of Homeward Bound.
What?
You seen Homeward Bound?
Yeah.
First of all,
devastatingly sad movie.
No, it ends pretty well.
I mean, I guess the only thing I can remember from Homeward Bound is the scene where he gets hit with the porcupine.
Oh, yeah.
That's and that's such a visceral memory for me as a child.
That dog comes over the hill, the cat comes over all those animals are dead now, by the way. All the animal actors, every animal actor from every movie you watched in the 90s, dead. They're gone. They've been dead for a minute. So I was waiting till Tim took a sip to tell you that all those animals are gone. They're dead. Anyway, so all I can think of with the name Peter is in Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
The boxer comes over the hill. Minxie, the cat, comes over the hill.
Yeah.
And then he's sitting there. Peter is standing outside waiting for, I forget the dog's name. Do you remember the old dog?
No.
He's sitting there in the front yard. He's like, he was really old. And the mom comes over and she goes, he was really old, baby. And then he slowly comes over the hill.
Yeah.
Do you remember that old dog's name?
Yeah, that's so emotional.
But then the old dog voice goes, Peter. I just think about it all the time. Anytime someone's like, his name is Peter, in my head I go, Peter. Peter.
Gosh, that is an emotional show. We did not, I don't know. There was in the 90s a lot of those shows meant for children that were very emotional shows. Movies and shows.
Most kids' movies are like, we watched The Wild Robot and we cried.
Is it really? Still?
Yeah. Yes.
I was just thinking. I was like, I don't know if kids' shows still are that emotionally.
I mean, yeah, it's because they are very empathy driven.
Yeah,
and that's how we're teaching kids what's right and wrong.
Interesting.
I mean, if you think about it too, like if you watch,
why don't we do that for grown-ups?
Well. But part of the reason is that as you grow up, the bad man is harder to define. When you're a kid, you watch a movie like Scar is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And they make the bad guy very, we do that for adults, but it becomes more about violently conquering the bad guy rather than a redemptive arc or emotional.
Or like this show we just watched, but I can't remember the name of, where we both were like, they humanized the bad guy way too early.
Yeah,
what show was that?
Paradise.
Paradise.
If you haven't watched Paradise, people were like, "Oh, this is just like Severance." It's not. It's bad. It's not bad.
Just like Severance.
It's just.
I don't know.
You were trying to tell me that Paradise. You were like, "Dude, Paradise is so good."
I like it a lot. I did like it a lot.
Good.
It was really fun.
Now you've watched Severance.
It's a really good show. Severance is a totally different show in a totally different genre. I would say, totally different league. But
right.
Paradise is still a great show.
No, Paradise is fine.
I liked it.
I think it's fine, but I'm saying for people to be like, "Oh, it's the same tier." No, it's not.
No, I would agree with that.
Severance is a league of its own at this point.
I would agree with that.
Paradise is a show that it was a fun concept, but yes, the bad guy, we learned too much about them early and so we actually learned their motive for why they're a bad guy too soon.
Yeah. Before we knew really what they did.
or before we even really knew that they were the bad guys.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they tried to do this whole, so then when that person became like the bad guy and was like, the weight of it wasn't as scary.
Yeah.
You need the mystery. You need we humanized bad guys have to be larger than life.
Yeah.
And we gave that character too much life too early.
Which I think is a more realistic view of the world.
Sure.
But yeah, it's not as entertaining.
Yep. It's not a good story.
Yeah.
The stories require intro, conflict, resolution. You understand how it tells stories?
Yeah.
Hey, man. We're just 15 minutes into this.
Do you want me to... You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so now that he is the emperor, and now that he has
what's his new name?
His new name, Sanbao.
Sanbao,
yeah.
Okay. Peter. Sanbao.
So he tells Sanbao, he says, hey, we need to put our footprint on the empire. And so he moves the capital of China to Beiping at the time, and builds the oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on the name of what is
the Great Wall of China.
No, it's the Imperial City. Inside the Imperial City, they got a name for this. On the inside, it's like I'm gonna mess this up. It's like the Magic City or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
The Emerald City.
No.
The wizard will see you now.
No, it's like in Beijing.
The heart of the city.
It's like deep in Beijing. Yeah, and it's like where like their capital, the capital. No, it's where the capital is, and it's like where
Central Park.
They've got a name for it. What do they call this? This is gonna bother me. No, it's honestly, it goes hard. Like but it's kind of like Magic City, you know? Like I know that sounds like that doesn't go hard.
Magic Kingdom.
The Forbidden City. That's what they call it.
That does go pretty hard.
It goes pretty hard.
In the early days of this show, we did like affiliate ads where we were like, hey, sign up for Grammarly and use code TILLN, and we got like 15 cents. And now we just do Patreon. It's a much better way. It's better for us as creators. It's better for you as listeners. And it's a much more fun way for us to interact. We do monthly hangouts like on Zoom. We just hang out and play games online and get to know each other. It's a really fun time. So, but still use our code TILLN at Grammarly.com because I think it's still active. We might get like a couple cents from that. Yeah. But join us on Patreon because we're having a great time.
Yeah. If you don't, we're going to have to start doing mobile game ads. And so they built the Forbidden City in the heart of Beijing, and that's where the emperor lives and all of his defenders and the army and all the political stuff. Is the capital of Beijing. And so Beijing is the capital of the dynasty. The Forbidden City is the capital of Beijing. And he says, we got to put our footprint. We got to put our mark on history. We got to do our thing. And he says, you being a giant, I need you to build me a fleet.
Now, is he 7 foot tall and lanky? Or like
I think he's 7 foot tall and lanky. I think he's 7 foot tall and lanky. I mean, here's what I'll say. We do have like artist renditions of him. Oh, and so in this, he looks normal bodied, but just huge.
Yeah.
Like he looks like what you would think a giant looks like, where it's like you have a normal looking body.
He looks strong.
Big. I don't think he was. I think he was lanky.
Okay.
But to be fair, to play devil's advocate to that, I guess he did win a lot of wars. So maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was.
Spoiler.
We already said that. He won the war that put him in as the emperor. That put his
he won.
Prince.
That's only one. I don't know if he won the series. I just know he made the playoffs right now.
So he says we need to be larger than life. I need you to build me a fleet. Okay. And so he goes and he puts together a group of engineers to start building what the emperor was calling the largest fleet in history.
Okay.
So they start building these ships. And long story short, what they do is they put together this fleet of ships. And I want to give you a list of what these are. Hold on. Let me pull up the...
It's actually pretty crazy when you think about how recently cameras were invented too. Like every picture you've seen.
That's true.
And then think about how many humans existed before that we just will never know what they looked like.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty bonkers.
Isn't that crazy?
So they put together a fleet of ships.
Okay.
And in this fleet, there was, I think the total number is around 600 or 700 ships. Massive fleet of ships. And in this fleet of ships, they had warships,
Okay.
which were large, obviously warships. I was going to explain what they did, but I was like, I don't have to. That's what they do. They war. These
Warships, which were large warships.
They did war. These ships did war. They're 160 feet long, 160 foot long ships for war.
Big ships.
Meant for war. Then they also had transport ships in this crew. The transport ships were 220 feet long and 82 feet wide.
Oh,
Remember, I want you to picture, this is the early 1400s.
Yeah.
And these are all wooden ships, like wooden sailboats.
Yeah.
That's what you can build at that time. They built a group of supply ships. And these supply ships, they were 256 feet long, 115 feet wide.
Listener, a football field is 300 feet.
Yeah. And then they built equine ships, which are ships just to carry horses. They had the horse boats.
Idiot.
Yeah. But some people are.
So an equine ship is a horse for equines.
That carried the horses, but it also carried, like, they would take tribute items to the places they were going, and so they would carry that in the equine ships. They also carried all the repair material for all the other boats. We'll get to that. These were 338 feet long and 138 feet wide.
Wow.
And then the crowning jewel of
how tall?
Fleet,
do you know?
I only know how tall this is. The crowning jewel of the fleet were what they called the treasure ships. Those are called treasure ships because they carried the treasure. These had 9 masts. They were 417 feet long, 171 feet wide. And they were typically, when you go from like bottom of the hull to the top of the masts, 900 feet.
That's what I'm saying.
Huge monster ships. We have like artist renditions of
none of these exist now
of these fleets, and so here I'll show you just an artist rendition of one of the treasure ships. Coming into port, very large. Here's a artist rendition of the fleet, and remember when you're looking at this fleet, it kind of looks like, oh, there's a bunch of small boats and then a bunch of big, but those boats are like 100-foot long boats, 200-foot long boats.
The small ones.
Yeah, the small ones. And so those other boats are very large boats, especially for that era. And then the treasure boats are just monster boats.
And they're in the middle.
Yeah.
Because they're protected.
Because they're protecting all of the gold in there and the treasure. And so here's an actual photo of him standing in front of his boats. Mm-hmm. So what they did is they said, okay, what we need to do is we need to...
It was for everyone in the audio listener, it was an actual photo. It was a sepia filter, though, is why he laughed. So,
is it sepia or sepia?
I'm pretty sure it's not sepia.
I've always said sepia. I'm dead serious. I've always said sepia.
Is it Tim or Tib?
I hate you. So the eunuch and his army of ships decided...
wrong. I just don't know which one.
It's probably sepia. So he goes out and he goes on these expeditions, and him and the emperor put together these expeditions. What are you doing right now?
Oh, I was texting.
I think he's looking at those pronunciation things. What? He found out he's wrong. Somebody found out they're wrong. That's what that was. That was him finding out he's wrong.
Cut all that out.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
Can I sip of that? No?
I mean, I almost did, but I'm like, I don't fully trust you. So I'm concerned that you're going to do something with it. I'm concerned there's going to be a bit here. I mean, I'm going to let you take it from me. Take this cup from me. But you don't have to, but I'm concerned there's a bit here. I'm concerned you're doing something. He's going to throw it away. Are you just going to keep it? What are you doing? You're just gonna unscrew and screw the lid?
Yeah,
You're just gonna sit here and keep doing this? I don't know. There's so little trust right now. I'm just so concerned that something's. Dang it.
What? I just took a sip.
That's the way you do it. Fixed it.
The eye contact with me as you look like a 40s trombone player. Just
so they take this fleet out, and the idea is no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you see this roll into your harbor.
yeah.
And you're like, whoever those guys are, they're in charge now. They're the boss now. I don't know. I might be the boss, but that's
how
the
people
boss.
feel when I walk into the local Mexican restaurant. I walk in and think, I don't know who that guy is, but I think he's in charge now. I sit down and they bring me a Blanco queso and and unlimited chips.
What kind of like
I'm
confidence
in charge.
do you gotta walk with?
Kind of confidence you gotta walk with to take over honestly, any restaurant.
It's not confidence, it's just guns.
I took over a Jersey Mike's.
You know, I used to work at a sandwich shop called Jersey Mike's. So I stopped looking at my thighs.
I wasn't. I was looking at your watch to see what time it is. To see if you have a time thing on yours.
I got time going. I'm keeping track. Don't worry. So they go on these journeys, and the whole point of them, well, I shouldn't say the whole point. There's a few points.
And they're conquering.
Yeah. Well,
are they conquering the Chinese
They're not
coast,
conquering. They're not conquering.
They're just flexing.
They're flexing. It's a few things. They're flexing. They are picking up treasures.
Shoot, I just
They're
shared
treasure
that
hunting.
water with you.
Yeah. Do you got a problem with that?
You think I'll
I know exactly where this bit's going, and I hate it so much.
what?
You're gonna be like, oh, you think I'm gonna like have a kid now?
I don't like that you knew that's where it was going. You think I'm pregnant? Shoot.
I should have drink your water.
Okay, anyway.
So the idea, they were flexing. It was 100%. They were just going around all the shores of everyone anywhere near them.
Yeah.
To be like, look at us now. But it was also, we're going to roll in and see if you guys got any treasure, and we're going to take that because we want some treasure.
Right.
And because, I mean,
what do you do?
Again, you roll into a Mexican restaurant, you walk in, you don't order.
Sit
you
down,
just go to someone else's
table. They bring me a spicy margarita
I'll take your
and
stuff.
the white queso. And
you sit down and you say, give me everything on table 6.
I don't even have to say it.
You just sit down and you just look at it.
I walk in and Peter goes over and tells the table, excuse me, guys, I need those. I think the fajitas are sizzling.
Excuse me,
I need
guys.
those back.
The boss is here. He wants your
you know
food.
what? And this was Peter's crazy because he grabs the fajita skillet barehanded.
He doesn't even grab the skillet.
He just grabs the stuff off and then comes back.
And it's like dripping.
And he holds it over. He feeds me like a bird. He puts it in his mouth and then he bird feeds me. I go, ah. And I get bird fed fajitas.
Fajitas. Yeah. And then
Peter feeds me fajita meat like a baby bird.
And then he takes the tortillas and he just shoves them in my mouth. It really is the best way to eat fajitas.
It's efficient. My macros are crazy.
Yeah,
76 grams of protein for 430 calories.
Have you guys been to that new Mexican restaurant on 39th?
Yeah, there was a weird guy in there.
The way they do fajitas is kind of crazy.
You know?
The fajitas come out raw and the guy just makes the sound.
He's feeding me raw meat. In that scenario, I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is the scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're flexing. They're stealing people's treasure.
Yeah, they're going around. They're flexing. They're taking treasure. they're also being like, hey, do you want to meet the emperor? And
are
some
they
people,
keeping the treasure on these boats, or are they taking it back to Beijing and
they're
putting
taking it
somewhere?
back, but they're going on journeys. So it's like
Okay.
they leave, they're
To
going
where?
through this huge route through, well, what they're doing is they're going around China, through Malaysia, around the Indian Ocean, and all the way to Africa. And
Okay, that's what I was
touring
wondering.
Africa. So they're going on these massive journeys. So, of course, the treasure is on the boat for a long time.
Right.
But eventually they go through the whole expedition. They end up back and they unload. And then
Sure.
they're like, all right, let's go on another trip. And so while they're on tour, essentially, they stop in certain places. They meet local rulers.
Yeah.
And they say, well, do you want to meet the king of the world? And they're like, I mean, I guess so. Because for most of these places that they're going, I think it's something you have to acknowledge too. There's not an empire anywhere near the size of this.
Oh, for sure.
Anywhere they're going. And so they roll in and it's like, oh yeah, this must be the king of the world because look at this. And so dignitaries load on the ships as well and they get transported back to go meet the emperor. And it's interesting. It's interesting just to think about the way the world used to work where like now we have diplomats that go and they'll go visit 3 different presidents in a day and then fly back and it's like they're gone for 38 hours, you know?
Yeah,
it's like
these leaders are gone for like a year.
probably more because especially if you're the first people who got picked up, if you're the first country they stopped in, like say they stopped in Japan
Right.
and they picked you up, you have to go through like Malaysia and all of like India and all of Africa and then they roll back. It's like you're gone. And then they stop and I'm for sure they were back in Beijing for a long time.
Right.
Like it wasn't like they just like, and also Beijing is not a coastal city, is it? I haven't thought about this until just now. I'm pretty sure Beijing is landlocked. So if this is, yeah, Beijing is landlocked.
Yeah.
So they would port and then they would have to travel across land. It was very interesting. I haven't thought about that. Anyways, and then they go meet the emperor and then they surely want to immediately turn around and go back. So like these people were gone
We
for,
went into a little quick meet and greet picture, which took a long time back then. 'Cause
Yeah.
someone had to draw it
someone had to, yeah.
with the CP
With the-
filter.
Which, yeah, you learned how to say today.
I didn't learn how to say it. I said it right as far as the whole time. So the sepia filter,
Yeah.
and so that took a while to draw,
Yeah.
and then you just go home.
Yeah. So they did 6 of these expeditions.
Jeez,
They were doing it all throughout this emperor's rule. He had ruled
which is
for
how long?
He at this point it's been 20 years. He's been emperor
Yeah.
for 20 years. Zheng He or Sun Bao has been leading the whole these expeditions. They've been charting a lot of the Indian Ocean, starting to understand the way the world
Weird stuff
was
is.
laid out. And towards the end,
Do we have any idea what their maps look like?
yeah, actually, I do have a map right here.
I'd be curious what they drew. You know?
Yeah, so this was okay. So this actually, dang it! I wish I had a. Okay, so this is not like the best situation to show you, but I'm going to show you anyways. What I have here is I have the first one is from 1402 so the beginning of the reign.
Okay.
The second one I have is from 1420, so the end of the reign. I feel like there's a little. Well, I'll show you. So this is what they had at the beginning of the reign.
Yeah.
So you can kind of guess like, okay, that's probably Korea over there on the right.
Okay.
And you probably have China there in the middle. And then I think over on the left is probably India. And so it's not super accurate.
Right.
It's pretty far off. This is what we have in 1420. This feels, honestly, now that I'm looking at this on the big screen, this feels English. This doesn't feel like them.
Right.
So that's probably why this looks so much worse.
Okay.
Because I saw it and this is just the different maps on Wikipedia.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so that's probably why this looks worse. Anyways.
Okay.
So they were mapping, but they're also discovering more. Towards the end, after about 20 years, the question started to arise. There's a lot of land out there, and we're better than everyone.
Yeah, we can take it.
And so these conversations started to happen, and we have record that there was consideration in the empire of should we conquest a little bit? Should we get into some conquesting?
Yeah.
Before this could happen, though, the Yongle emperor dies, and his replacement is not a fan of that idea.
Doesn't want to conquest.
Is not a conquestor, not a conquistador. And so he says, no, we're not going to do that.
Conquestor.
And he actually shuts down the treasure voyages altogether. He says, forget this. You're out. I don't like you. You're too tall. It's kind of weird.
You're spooky, dude.
I don't like how tall you are.
You freak me out.
You're too tall. Get out of here.
Oh,
and so he loses
you on
his
stilts.
Yeah, those are fake. Your legs aren't really that big, are they? I think you're faking it. Say that to the next tall person you see.
Whoa.
I think you're faking it. You're faking what? That
I know the truth.
No one's actually that tall.
What's the weather like up there? He was actually the first person to ever make that joke.
Yeah. And the guy was mad about it. And so he left. So they shut down the whole expedition thing, which lasted about a year because then the emperor died. And a new emperor came in place and he was like, those expeditions were kind of cool, actually. And then he was like, give me that tall guy. And so
hey, Conan O'Brien.
Kinda.
They were like, no, never mind. We don't need you.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you just moved your whole family to Burbank.
Do you want to come back?
What do you got going on Thursday?
Thought about being here again?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for listening to Things I Learned Last Night. Just so you know, we got a new merch line coming out for this summer. So you've been working on that summer bod and you want to show off how ripped you are, you can get a small t-shirt from us. Or if you've not been working on that summer bod, why don't you check out our 2X selection? So we do have some really cool designs. I'm actually really proud of them. We got like a honkin' and bonkin' shirt. We've got just regular Things I Learned Last Night. These are, listen, we don't make a ton of money from this show. This is literally to help cover our expenses, which, like microphones and Alex. And so thanks for supporting our show.
And so, yeah, they moved him back. They started the expeditions back up. But this expedition was not nearly as successful as the previous ones.
Sure.
And I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like you roll into town 6 times, you can get a lot of cool stuff. The 7th time you roll in, it's like, guy, we're out, bro. Like, we got nothing else to give you guys.
Last time,
and we get it. You're strong. We've seen your cool boats 6 times already, and so it's like it didn't have the same impact that it had been having, and it was expensive. And so this emperor, after doing one more, seeing the result of it, was like, I don't think we need to be doing this anymore. What's really interesting is this. They actually called it the Pax Ming because it was the closest imperial China ever got to being like settlers, and they actually got very, very close there. And so there's a lot of questions if had that emperor not died. Yeah. And the way that happened, by the way, was really interesting because the Forbidden City, the temple in the Forbidden City, got struck by lightning, and all the Confucians thought it was a sign. And so that's why they shifted so hard on the next emperor who came into power was propped up by the Confucians because they were like, that was a sign that he was doing things the wrong way. And it kind of shifted the culture a lot.
Yeah.
The culture was getting very close to be a lot like what Western culture was.
Neighbor's house got struck by lightning and they didn't change their ways at all. Because they had pet pigs in the backyard. They had so like they had a big wooden fence. Part of their wooden fence just went down, and instead of repairing the wooden fence, they just put up an additional chain link fence inside the wooden fence.
Yeah.
So the chain link fence is actually what it's using, and then the wooden fence is just there, and part of it's down.
Interesting.
And then they ran a tattoo parlor out of the basement.
No way. That's honestly kind of sick.
No. Because not a cool tattoo parlor.
Oh, like
a guy with a tattoo gun.
That's still pretty sick.
Who's like, I got a shop in my basement.
Yeah.
We went and looked at the house when it was for sale, and it's clear that he tried to run a business out of that.
Well, when it was electrocuted, after it got electrocuted?
Well, they moved out.
They built it.
They didn't renovate. They fixed the part that burned.
Okay.
And you can tell they did not fix the water damage.
That sucks. Well,
people who live there now also are not fun neighbors.
Interesting. Do they have the tattoo shop?
No, they just moved in and they put a lot of flags up in their front yard.
Did you tell them what happened to the last people?
We said God smited the last people.
Yeah, God shocked the last people. And I don't mean like surprised them. I mean he electrocuted them.
And by flags, I mean they've got like flags with like words on. You know, the people who have flags that are like, Jesus is the Lord of this house and stuff. And you're just like, listen, I'm a Christian, but that's freaking weird, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's
a lot of other flags too.
That's kind of what happened here, except for it changed the world. I pray
every night.
I think.
That I say, God, thank you for catching Osama bin Laden, and please smite my neighbors. And then also smite my parents' neighbors. I haven't brought up my neighbors yet. My neighbors, our cat got out. Have I told you this story?
I don't think so.
We lived there for a week and a half, and Duck got out.
Yeah.
And so we were searching the neighborhood, obviously very stressed. We live on a very busy road. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
I looked at my neighbor, and because I was in her like back porch area, and I was looking for him. And she goes, can I help you? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking for my cat. And then she goes, the last one that got out got hit by a car. And then just turned around and went into her house. And every day since, like I hear her out there talking, and I go, God, I hope you get hit by a car. God, take her out.
That's such a brutal thing to just say. That's crazy.
To look, she's like, last one got hit by a car. She shrugged too. She went, last one got hit by a car, and then went inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
When someone's clearly stressed.
Yeah.
To just
I hate her.
Last time this happened, it's been the worst for someone.
Yeah. I know you're probably thinking of the worst case scenario, but just want to remind you what it is. I want
to remind you that the worst case scenario has happened before. Yeah.
What actually happened to that last couple that lived in our apartment was that their dog did get hit by a car, and then the stress of that ultimately led to their relationship ending and getting divorced, and then they moved out. That's a real thing that happened.
So a lot of scholars say that had there not been that moment where the lightning struck the Forbidden City.
Yeah, they changed their ways. Then China might have taken over that whole region.
China might have got a lot more imperial and a lot more colonial.
Yeah.
And this is at the same time, this is 1420s. This is right before, right the same time where colonialism is really getting pretty cool for the West. And so by getting cool, I mean everyone's doing it. I mean everyone's doing it. Everyone's like, we want to be a little colonial.
Sure.
And the question is, what would the world have looked like had that lightning strike not happened? Had the East also got colonial? Because after that, they shifted and they got much more internal and much more like religious for a long period. And by the time they shifted back, it was too late. The West had swallowed everything up.
Yeah.
And so it is very interesting to kind of think about. They had the fleet. They had what they needed. They had the largest ships in the world. And they very well could have overpowered a lot of what the West did and colonize a lot of areas that the West ended up colonizing because there was a vacuum.
Yeah. History is going to look at the United States and be like, they had the largest military ever exist in the world. And
but then that lightning strike.
But then all the fighting age men got addicted to TikTok.
So recently in the 90s, they built they rebuilt one of these ships as like a monument. They were like, we want to build a monument to these ships. And so they built this ship. And during construction of this ship, I don't know if you're looking at it, during construction of this ship.
AI, but yeah.
This is an AI.
Okay.
They built this ship. It's in a park. It's like in the middle of like a city park.
Sure.
And they just sat it there.
Sure.
It's almost like a playground now.
But it's almost like a park. It's almost like in the middle of a town. There's a green area, and yeah, Tim, I get it. This is why our episodes are bad now.
Okay,
it's almost like there's a park, like where kids play, like a park. So a park is like a park. A park is like a little green patch in the middle of a town. There's a lot of roads and houses, and then there's one designated space. They say no houses there. That's a field. That's a park. You know what it is?
All right, are you done? Are you done with this?
Oh, dude, you done?
Okay, so they were building this, and while they were building this, they were trying to build it to spec of what like the history books say this was built to, the treasure ships. And while they were building it, they noticed something. So there is a center mast support beam that runs across the bottom of these ships, all the way across.
Yes.
And while they were building this, what they noticed is the way this works is you cannot...
What did they use as the guide to build this?
The history books. So like
Okay.
the Ming Dynasty kept like detailed books of history of
okay.
everything that they
Sure,
did.
sure,
So they
sure,
use
sure.
these books to build them to spec. It's kind of like the Noah's Ark experience where that guy was like, I'm going to build this. Is similar.
That guy, Kinham.
And so they were like, okay, we're going to build this. And while they were building it, there is this center piece of wood that runs across the whole ship as like the main support beam
Right.
for it. And the way that it worked is physically, it needed to be a single piece of wood. If you had multiple pieces of wood stuck together at that time, they did not have the technology. It was a weak point, and the weight, it would crack under the weight and it would split. It was not possible.
Where'd they get this wood?
So they started looking and they realized they did not have access in the Ming Dynasty to trees that were tall enough to make a single mast of wood to make that support beam. And so upon further and then they started doing some more
But you
investigation.
know who would? Giants. The Tartarians.
Yeah, it could be the Tartarians. I think you're right. I think you might be right. That might be who it was. And so then they started doing some more digging and they started testing some other things. The masts that they said, they were like, they would need, if they got the tallest trees that were available to the Ming Dynasty, they would need to stack 4 trees on top of each other.
So how'd they do it?
And they said the same thing. The weight of the wind would
knock it
break
over.
it.
How'd they do
break it? And so after doing some additional
You know what I'm
digging,
saying? I'm trying, guys.
I'm trying. You're interrupting me. Sepia. Okay, so basically what they concluded is that they don't think it's true. They think that this was embellished.
Oh, I'm sure.
That the Empire embellished the
That's kind of what I thought
ships.
about this guy being 7 foot. I was like, oh, I bet he was.
Yeah, and so they started looking back at the whole story with a more of a critical lens, and it was the same thing. They were like, they don't think he was actually 7 feet tall.
Yep.
They think this whole
They don't think they went the whole route.
They don't think the majority of this story is true. They think it's a legend. But it was so ingratiated as part of the culture for so many years that they all just thought it was history until someone tried to build the boat. And they were like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. And then they realized, so the general consensus at this point is he was probably like 5'3".
Yeah.
And they had a fleet of ships, but the largest ships were probably around the average size of most ships at the time, about 200 feet at the largest. So still large ships, but not the 400 foot and then like 100 foot wide. Like it wasn't what they were acting like it was. And then it does call into question like how big were these expeditions really? Unless the aliens helped them?
They were giants.
Yeah, that's also possible.
And the giants just knocked down all the gigantic trees before we got here.
Mm-hmm. They could have, because it is kind of peculiar that we only have 2 of those forests with the really big trees in California, which I found out there's 2 of them yesterday. I thought there was only 1. The redwoods?
The redwoods exist in more than two forests. There's redwoods in Yosemite. There's redwoods in Sequoia. There's redwoods
But yeah, it's just right there. It's just that region, right? There's not redwoods anywhere else in the world. It's just that area of California, right?
I'm pretty sure there's redwoods in the rest of the world too, right?
Shut up. No way. Where do redwoods grow? Where are the wild things
in the world? Redwood trees are exclusively found on the western seaboard. Frick, dude.
That's crazy.
Sepia, huh? Why am I wrong about your
You live there. This is your home. Yeah, why is that? That's so strange. But we know why it is, because the Tartarians cut all the rest of them down. That's the only place where they didn't cut them down. That was the world's first national park. I know, isn't that odd?
That exists, huh?
That's so. I think you're onto something. I think it's because the Tartarians cut all the rest of them down. This is the only place they didn't go
I don't know, but have you ever seen a redwood in person? Which park did you go to? Sequoia?
Yosemite.
Oh yeah. You've not seen one in person.
Not seen them.
I'm telling you, it's one of those things where it's like, and Yosemite's got some big ones, but they don't need those are not even as big as the ones in Sequoia. When you stand next to like General Sherman, the largest living tree on Earth, it's alarming.
Yeah.
Your body goes, what the heck?
Yeah. It's strange.
Yeah. Anyway,
strange.
They've hidden the location of Hyperion.
Yeah, they don't want anyone to burn it down.
People find it, but yeah, it's not publicly.
How do you know? How would you know if you found it? Does it have a plaque?
At it, you go.
That's the biggest one. That is the biggest one.
I don't think it has a plaque. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you talked.
But I also think they've closed the park around. Like you can't
Are you the
have
tallest
to sneak
tree?
past things to get to.
Yeah,
it.
they got guards.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
because they don't want people to trample the ground that it's in and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's wild. How many people do you think know of that?
Well, but when you're standing in front of General Sherman too, it's literally 2,000 years old. So like General Sherman was about 1,300 years old during this story about the Ming Dynasty.
Yeah, that's bonkers.
That's crazy, right?
How is that
crazy?
Yeah,
right?
that's nuts.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, I mean, actually, General Sherman then is older than most of the New Testament.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Literally,
nuts.
that was one thing I thought when I stood next to her. I was like, this tree was here whenever Jesus walked on earth.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers. Actually,
This tree
yeah. At
was
that age, it
also
would be older
here-
than the entire New Testament. Actually,
What's that?
At that age, it would be older than the entire New Testament.
Yeah.
The events of the New Testament were happening,
Right.
but the writing, that's crazy.
Crazy stuff.
That is bonkers. Well,
This tree was also here when Jimmy John's was thought of as a concept for a restaurant.
and Pickle was arguing with him about. I love that I just call him Pickle.
Yeah. So is there anything else about this place? It's all made up.
Well, it's not all
Potentially.
made up. It's not all made up. There's some truth. It's like any legend or myth. Like it's like there's truth to it, but over time they embellished it, made it into a bigger deal than it was.
Yeah.
Most likely the Zheng He guy. Most likely there was people writing down the stories, and he was like, they put 5'3", and he was like, no. He said, put 7 feet. And the guy was like, but you're not even
He's
close.
like, okay. He's like, no, make it taller. He's like, what about 6'3"? He's like, taller. 6'9"? He goes, just put 7.
Just make it 7. Just make it 7. Nice even number.
Yeah, that's where it's
Matter of
unbelievable.
fact, make it 7 expeditions too. Make it even.
Actually, because I mean, if you think about like 7 being a whole number kind of thing.
Yeah. There's something there. I don't know how much of this is true, but it is interesting because there's the story. It's like, is this, if the story's real, it got really close for them to being a colonial power. But then now we know it's like, how much of the story really was real?
True.
I don't know. It's interesting though.
Well,
And it's all because he said, I think they jumped in that pond over there.
fiddle off.
Hey, thanks for watching Things I Learned Last Night. We're recording this again because Jared thought I was mean in the last one. But if you like that episode, you should go watch Tartaria. People didn't like it. You can leave a comment, say you liked it. Jaron doesn't think you should be mean to them in the comments. Neither do I. But anyways, we'll see you next week for another episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you want to see that episode right now, you can become a Patreon supporter. Our patrons get every episode ad-free a week early and a bunch of other perks. They help make the show happen. Another great way to help is by commenting on the Tartaria episode or this episode or any episode. We'll see you next week on Things I Learned Last Night. Also, this is an Evergreen Podcast Network podcast. Check out the shows at evergreenpodcasts.com.